Great to have you with us on The Full View. Now, the South African economy may have missed going into a recession recently, but the economy only grew by 0.4% in the first 3 months of this year, which is nothing to write home about. And with the population growing at an even faster rate, it means that South Africans are generally getting poorer, and that has been the trend for a very long time. The Centre for Development and Enterprise says it's not because South Africa is unfortunate. Its report released this past week argues that the slow growth in more than a decade is a result of bad policies and poor leadership. To discuss, we're now joined by Ann Bernstein, who is the head of the Centre for Development and Enterprise. And thank you for being with us as always. You say that despite the rhetoric, the government does not have a growth strategy. If anything, it has an anti-growth strategy. Now, this can't be intentional. Right? Why do you believe government officials are doing the opposite in many cases of what you believe they should be doing?
Well, you have to, good evening. You have to look at what we're doing and not at the rhetoric. So the president talks a lot about we need growth. He told us a week ago in Parliament we need growth and we must create jobs. But when you look at the policies of his government, these are often policies that are designed to prevent growth, that interfere in how the market works. We also have very poor performance in government. We have a cabinet of mediocrities at best, and nobody is ever fired or moved because they don't deliver. And then we have a lack of leadership. In order to get growth, you need to prioritize growth. It's not easy. You have to be determined. You have to implement reforms with speed. You have to control the narrative in a society. And you need to have deadlines against which you are going to measure your progress, instead of which South Africa is going backwards. We're seeing infrastructure collapsing in the very heartland of the economy, never mind the rest of the country. We're seeing ports that are probably some of the worst in the world. So we can't get our goods to market. Roads are collapsing. Everywhere you look, things are going badly, but we're never told why this is happening. We don't have an analysis of why we're in such a bad state. The president refers vaguely to the 9 wasted years under the Zuma administration when he was deputy president and the Guptas. But that's not good enough. You have to look carefully at what policies have led us to this sorry state and why government performance at almost every level is just subpar. And then how leaders should be operating and how we get South Africa moving out of this terrible declining situation that we're in.
Yeah, but do you have any sense of why? I mean, is there some malicious plot here, or are people just misinformed when they are making policies? Is there just complacency? You talk about a lack of change, the right people not being put in the right positions.
I think there's some key issues here. The first is an unwarranted faith in the state. Now, you might believe that the state was absolutely vital in the East Asian miracles or in China, but South Africa does not have that kind of competent, highly disciplined state. So we have a weak state, and yet we continue to say this state must deliver. We wanted a monopoly on ports and rail freight. We wanted a monopoly until very recently on energy provision and distribution. So when those collapse, you've put all your eggs in one basket and we can't deliver. And the very society, our economy, is now at risk. So those are just a few of the bad policy decisions we've made. There are many others. But you also have to look at cadre deployment, yes, where we have put people in positions of enormous power with big budgets to build infrastructure and many other things, and they're just not fit for the job, or they're corrupt, or their first loyalty is to the party and not to servicing to providing the services our economy desperately needs and our citizens desperately need. So those are just two examples, policy and bad governance practices. And I haven't even mentioned wholesale corruption, which we've been very slow to start putting fear into the minds and hearts of those who are stealing public money.
And of course, your report mentions Eskom, and you say that Eskom's dominance with regard to power should not have been allowed for so long. But let me end with this. Is there any silver lining here? I mean, there was skepticism about the new electricity minister, for example, but some saying we're seeing a difference of late, and certainly we're feeling less load shedding. That or anything else a silver lining for you?
Look, I think things are really bad, and we need to acknowledge that. And there is no simple silver lining. We have not just an energy minister, but we have a lot of other people, from the Minister of Minerals and Energy to the Minister of Public Enterprises to Eskom itself, not to mention the Department of Environment and the Treasury, all involved in trying to sort out energy or not sort out energy. So the truth is, South Africa, and that's the key point we're making, in addition to bad policy choices and in addition to cadre deployment and bad governance, we are not seeing the leadership from the president and others saying, this is why we're in such a mess, and here is my vision of how to get out of this. And frankly, I think it's time we had a lot of new people running South Africa, because the current rulers are just doing a terrible job.
All right, thank you very much. Looking at the stagnating economy and saying not much hope for the future if things continue and don't change. That was the Centre for Development and Enterprise head, Ann Bernstein.